A lucky customer. Pick a card, any card. Oh. That one? No, you don't want that one. Try again. Oh, this one? Well, that happens to be retro gaming news. The Ayaneo Pocket ACE is officially announced, courtesy of Ayaneo, and it looks to be like a very premium chocolate bar shaped device. It features a 4.5-inch 3x2 golden ratio display, clocking in at a resolution of 1080 by 1620. Unfortunately, it's IPS, so they really swung and missed on an opportunity to throw an OLED in the mix. And especially knowing Ayaneo's pricing on these kinds of devices, I feel like that's an opportunity missed. Under the hood, it's powered by a Snapdragon G3X Gen 2 chipset, the same one that's in the Pocket S and the Pocket DMG. Two very premium price tag items by Ayaneo. Some other notable features include dual analog sticks, 2 analog triggers, and L4 and R4 buttons, which is a pretty cool addition. I haven't seen that on too many other handhelds. Ayaneo just, doing their thing as always. And if you look closely here, I can't tell if that's 1 button or 2 buttons, but it looks to be like a giant M, probably standing for Montotech. Subscribe below. The Miyoo Flip version 2 is out and in people's hands, and it seems to be a real coin flip of whether you're gonna get a great handheld or a broken handheld. It seems like Miyoo has upgraded the screen, analog sticks, shoulder buttons, and most notably, the hinge. Some people have been just receiving hinges that are completely snapped out of the box. And on the flip side, Russ from Retro Game Core received a handful of review models of the version 2, and they all seem to be working perfectly. Kind of suspicious when you think about it, right? If you're Miyoo, you're not gonna risk sending Russ a random flip off of the lot that could have a bad hinge or shoulder buttons. You're probably gonna handpick the best ones from the lot and send that to the most popular reviewer in the space with over 500,000 subscribers. Just something to think about, I'm not saying that Miyoo is creating the perfect flip version 2 just for Russ and then shipping everyone else the busted up ones, but I'm not saying that they're not. The MagicX Zero 4D launch is coming up very soon. Now, who's MagicX? Beats me. They're pretty new. They've released about 2 or 3 handhelds at this point, and the Zero 4D is specifically targeted at emulating Nintendo DS games. So it features a 4.5-inch portrait-style screen at 480 by 800 resolution, and essentially just stacks the DS screens on top of each other. Kind of like a 2DS. Now this 4.5-inch display is also touchscreen, which makes DS games just significantly easier to get through touch prompts and just emulate them in general. A lot of handhelds these days are kind of missing that when it comes to DS games. You kind of have to use a analog stick instead of a touchscreen. So seeing that kind of makes this one of the better DS emulators. Actually, hang on a second. Looking at the specs list on the actual product page says that it's a 4.0-inch IPS display, not a 4.5. So a little bit of MagicX lore here. This isn't the first time that they've announced a feature or a spec and then completely changed it as we get closer to release. They did it on the XU Mini M, and they're doing it again with the Zero 4D. It seems like the possible final display size is 4 inches instead of 4.5. Both are massive, by the way, totally towering, very intimidating Goliath, and just really powerful. It's powered by an all-winner A133 chipset, has 2 gigs of DDR4 RAM, and it's running Android with the Dawn launcher out of the box. That 2 gigabytes of RAM is really gonna help with the Android operating system. I feel like anything less than that is gonna be a pretty poor experience. It also supports Linux for custom firmwares if you're interested in that. And it also seems like it has a higher battery capacity at 4,300 milliamp hours instead of the 4,000 that was originally announced. This is almost 10% increase, so I'll take it. A little more DS gaming. Now, Dawn Launcher on Android is actually the same thing that the Mini 028 is running. And with this portrait aspect ratio, it should feel kind of similar to a phone in a way, with the extra addition of these little wings It's a very strange looking device, but could be a great way to play DS games. I'm a little concerned about the A133P chipset in terms of running every DS game at full speed, but we'll find out. The rumored price tag for the Zero 40 is $75. Do you think that this is worth $75? My predictions are closer to $80 for a 64 gigabyte, $90 for a 128 gig model. The current market prices for DSs range from like $50 to all the way up to $150. So if they can do this for $100 or less on the Zero 40, it could be a decent deal. I'm a little concerned about versatility. With this aspect ratio, you're kind of locked into great DS games and nothing else really. Good luck playing any 16:9 games, unless you want to actually play like a maniac. But even 1x1 games like Game Boy Color are just gonna have massive black bars at the top and bottom. It seems like this is kind of a DS emulator and that's about it. You might just be better off getting a DS and an R4 card. The highly anticipated Abxylute One Pro is live on Kickstarter. Now I know a lot of you were waiting on the edge of your seat for this Abxylute One Pro. Now you can go get it for $209. That's early bird pricing. This big old handheld features a 7-inch 1080p display, a MediaTek Genio 510 chipset, no Snapdragon, none of that stuff. Nope, we're going MediaTek, and it has a Mali G57 and Wi-Fi 5. I'm not sure what their angle is with this device. It seems like a hodgepodge of components that don't necessarily lend themselves to any specific specialty. You have Wi-Fi 5, so streaming is not going to be great. You have a MediaTek chipset, and so you're not even gonna really maximize this 1080p 7-inch display. It's $209, so it's not necessarily a budget device, and a Retroid Pocket 5 is only $10 or $20 more. Russ from Retro Game Core released a review on it, so you can go check that out and hop over to the Kickstarter if you want to spend money. Anyways, speaking of the Retroid Pocket 5, we can now overclock the Retroid Pocket 5 by 25%. It's pretty enormous breakthrough. This is something that was actually worked on by Gamma from Gamma OS. A Philippine YouTuber made a tutorial on how to install it. The YouTuber mentions to do this at your own risk, and I second that because overclocking anything could possibly lead to less stability, crashes, and the old spicy pillow. So with this big performance increase, it's also gonna draw more battery and it cause a bit more heat, and there's, you know, the obvious risks of overclocking a device. But you should be getting around 20% increase on performance. Pretty huge. And one last thing to mention about the overclock is it only works while your Pocket 5 is on. As soon as you turn it off, it resets back to the original clock speeds. So you'll need to do all of the steps again to overclock it. Try it out at your own risk, but yeah, big things in the overclocking world. The Nintendo Switch 2 Direct is coming on Wednesday, April 2nd. This is gonna be a huge announcement, probably the biggest one from Nintendo this year. We're finally gonna get an in-depth look at the Nintendo Switch 2's design, the hardware capabilities, and any unique features, including what these Joy-Cons are really capable of. On top of that, we should be expecting some exclusive game announcements and more details in terms of what launch titles we're gonna be getting, and obviously the release date and price. I'm expecting sometime in June for release date, and for price, I think they're gonna go for right under $400, so probably $399. I feel like $400 is the cap for the average casual consumer. Anything above that is a little hard to justify on something that has Switch in the name. But what do you think it's gonna cost, and when do you think they're gonna drop it? Pre-orders should be going up on the 2nd, so we'll find out everything on Wednesday. Over in emulator news, Delta for iOS is now adding Nintendo DS Online Multiplayer. And by the time you're seeing this video, it should be released. The feature's been locked for the past week behind a Patreon-linked beta version of Delta, but as of today, it is public. In order to play online multiplayer, you'll need to connect to third-party servers like WeMFi. Nintendo shut down the official servers over a decade ago, but avid fans are still maintaining these third-party servers, which Delta now supports. So If you have an iPhone, go check it out. Sudachi on Android is back. We are so back. The Switch emulator for Android just released a new update. Their last one was almost 2 months ago, and the website actually received so much traffic for this update that it exceeded their bandwidth. Yeah, it crashed the whole site. And as of recording this, the website is still down, but the GitHub page is live. So you can grab the APK from there and get back to some good old Switch emulation. If you want to see some Sudachi performance results on the ROG 556, you can check out some videos here. I tested over 125 games on the ROG 556 using Sudachi and Skyline. If you want to watch that video, you can click the link in the top corner. EmuDeck for the Steam Deck just released the 2.4 update, which adds ESDE integration, Azahar, and Citron implementation. This is a pretty great update if you have a Steam Deck. The Emulation Station integration now means that we can organize retro games in our Steam library separately from PC titles. Azahar is a newer 3DS emulator that was created by combining Lime 3DS and Citra. So it should be very promising for the future of 3DS emulation. I talked about it a little bit in last week's retro game news, but now it's a part of EmuDeck for the Steam Deck. The update also added support for Citron, a new experimental Switch emulator. So if you're interested in trying this out, go ahead and grab the latest update of EmuDeck. The classic PS1 racer Wipeout is getting an unofficial port to the Dreamcast. Developer JN Martin 84 recently managed to get this PS1 title to run on the Dreamcast. The port still has some bugs, including issues with music and obviously crashes, but it's very promising and just a really cool project in general. So far, they've actually managed to get it to run at over 100 frames per second. A big part of the project was actually informed by their previous project of porting Doom 64 to the Dreamcast. And it's also their second attempt at porting it. They tried in 2023, and they produced a game, but it didn't have sound and it had some graphic problems. Some other insane ports on the Dreamcast include the Grand Theft Auto 3 port, which is an absolutely massive project, and that same developer is also working on porting Grand Theft Auto Vice City to the Dreamcast as well. And earlier this year, another developer got Counter-Strike and Half-Life Deathmatch running on the Dreamcast using the Zash 3D engine. Big things in the Dreamcast world. That console is looking up these days. Shouts out to Tynology, big Dreamcast fella. The ROG Ally now runs SteamOS, courtesy of YouTuber The Fox. We got a first look of an early version of SteamOS that is not finalized for any other device. The video shows off a first look at SteamOS version 3.8 running on the Ally. The Ally's controller is detected as an Atari Xbox 360 game controller, and the additional buttons on the console are not fully supported, but we're looking at performance similar to a Steam Deck in games like Batman Arkham Knight and Cyberpunk 2077. There's no way to adjust the TDP in this current version, so you're kind of gonna be running games on the higher end of power consumption, but it's a really cool video and it kind of presents the first look at what's to come with SteamOS on non-Steam Deck devices. Great stuff from the Fox. And the highly coveted mod of the week goes to the PlayStation. YouTuber Ginger of Oz, maker of the Wii Boy Color and the PS2 Portable, has created the latest crustacean creation, the Playstacean, a crab-designed PS1 that is fully functional using the claw grip controllers. The modder says, yes, the claw controller is fully functional, and no, it's not comfortable to use. This is an absolutely wild project, definitely one of the most unhinged things I've seen recently. An absolute mad lad, so shouts out to Ginger of Oz, formerly known as Ginger of Mods. So with all that retro game news out of the way, what have I been playing lately? I've been playing the Pokemon Lazarus demo that I mentioned last week's episode. This is a really great GBA ROM hack of Pokemon Emerald by the creator of Pokemon Emerald Sea Glass. They did a fantastic job. So far, the wild encounters have been a standout feature for me. Just seeing a Pokemon and then hightailing it to go catch it is just such a great time. The day and night system is pretty cool too. Very creative and especially hard to execute on the GBA without completely redesigning every single area for day and night. So props to the developer for a little workaround with street lamps and just generally setting the night vibes. But outside of Lazarus, I've actually been thinking about starting a Nuzlocke. I've never done a Nuzlocke before, so if you're a Pokemon head, let me know where to start. Ideally, I'm looking for a ROM hack that kind of has a feature for Nuzlocks, like integrated, so that I don't have to, you know, kind of self-correct in general. But yeah, let me know if you have any recommendations. So what do you think of the news today? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, go ahead and subscribe so you can get more retro game news delivered straight from me into your pocket. I'm Montotech's star representative, not Montotech himself, and I'll see you in the next one. Later!